This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, welcome to the August 7th meeting of the Easthampton Energy Advisory Committee. I'm Jamie Paquette, the chair, joined by members John Pepe and Constance Dawson, as well as Conservation Agent Cassie Traggart from the city, and a number of other well-wishers and assorted folks. Get to that in a moment. First order of business for us is to review and approve the minutes from the previous meetings on July 10th. Connie circulated those last week. Any comments or motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from the July meeting.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Meeting minutes. Motion was made to approve and passed unanimously. We will now move on to public speak. I know we have several people here that are new. Maybe you haven't been to one of these before. Anybody come with something to talk about or something just like to introduce yourselves? Now is the time.
Sure. I'm Zach. I'm a resident in town, in the city here, and just curious about what you folks are talking about. I work in the industry, so I like to know about the fleets and what's going on with EV chargers and just the energy in town.
Cool. Thanks, Zach. Welcome.
And my name is Alex Barron. I'm also an Easthampton resident, and I'm on an associate professor of environmental science and policy at Smith College. So I do climate policy work there. So I have both personal and professional interests.
Wonderful. Thanks, Alex.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Is this considered public speak? Do I need to put their names into the minutes if they've just introduced themselves? Their last names?
It's a good question. I think you could make a quick note of it.
Okay, so Alex, how do you spell your last name?
It's right on the screen. It's Barron.
It's for some reason it's not on the screen. That's why I'm
fascinating. Yeah,
I'm seeing it.
Yeah, it just says Alex on my screen. So say it again. It's Alex
Barron. B like in boy. Arron.
Eron. Oh, okay. And Zachary, what's your last name?
Zach is Holt, Holt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay.
And Alex is Barron.
Oh, it's Bear. I'm sorry. I completely did not get it. Okay. Thank you.
Everyone has a different view, perhaps because we have so many people in here, depending on the size of your screen and what you got going on. You may not be able to see everybody. If you want to see everybody that is on, if you go to the lower right, there's a little icon with a number 13 next to it that if you click on that, it'll show you everybody that's in the call currently, with the exception of Bruce, who is going to show his phone number since he's calling in. But everybody else will show the name they have, at least on their Google Meet account or Google account, whatever. So we have a few other folks. Anybody else that brought something they'd like to speak about or introduce themselves?
Jamie, would you like us from Good Energy to introduce ourselves now?
We're just about to get to that, so why don't we just hold until officially into that section. We do have this sort of perfunctory committee updates portion here. This is where I will mention for those of you that are new that there are spots available on the committee. If you are interested in joining the committee, we have at least 2 full-time open slots as well as associate member slots. Those can be obtained by request. There's a form on the city website you can download, fill out, and submit. The mayor's office reviews and approves those. City council then votes on the recommendation from the mayor to appoint people to the committees. So anyone that's here that's interested in that, fully support you joining us. We've grown our agenda quite a bit over the past year or two. There is a lot going on, and there's going to be a lot more going on. So if you want to be a part of that, we'd love to have you. There's more ideas, more energy, more effort. So We are all, those three of us currently on the committee are, all just like you, members or residents of town, and just have an interest in this professionally, personally. So my pitch to you. So moving into the main part of the agenda here, the first part is on municipal aggregation, and Patrick sort of got us started there. He and other folks here from Good Energy, we have recently executed a contract between the city and Good Energy to help us roll out a municipal aggregation plan, or first develop and get an approval for a municipal aggregation plan, and then eventually to put that into effect. A real quick primer for those of you that are new or maybe don't know exactly what this is. Commonwealth law allows each town, each municipality to enter into like an aggregation agreement where they aggregate all electricity, both residential and commercial accounts, and are allowed to bundle all that and take it out to electricity suppliers, where we can negotiate a contract for electricity supply for all residents and businesses that have not opted out of that. So we are in the somewhat early stages of that process, although we've been talking about it for a while, but we are now just sort of at the kickoff stage for the actual piece. We've had the city council approval. We've had the mayor sign off on this. She signed the contract with Good Energy, and Good Energy has come here today to sort of give us an update on where things stand. We had a quick kickoff meeting last week where we kind of talked through what we're going to expect and how we're going to get there. So Patrick, why don't I turn it over to you? They're going to give us a quick little presentation and update on where we are.
And your last name is?
Mine is Roche, R-O-C-H-E.
Thank you.
And I'll just have our team do a quick introduction as well. I know there's a lot on the agenda, so we'll keep it tight. But I'm Patrick Roche with Good Energy, and I've worked on lots of aggregation plans over the last few years, getting them through DPU, which is quite the hurdle. But excited to be working with Easthampton. So I'll pass it over to Rafita first. She's going to be working with me on developing the plan for the city.
Hi everyone, this is I will be working with Patrick on the aggregation plans, and I just recently joined Good Energy as a sustainability and engagement strategist. Thank you, and I'll pass it off to Rachel.
I'm sorry, what's your last name?
I think it looks like Miss Dawson, you're trying to speak, but
I just was asking for Rafita's last name so I can put it into the minutes.
Oh, it's Rahman, R-A-H-M-A-N.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Great. So I am Rachel Ferdinand. Last name is Ferdinand. I am one of our client specialists, so I will be working with Patrick and Rafita and Allison, who you'll meet next. I more so work once the program has launched on day-to-day operations, including customer service and some of the website operations, things like that. But you'll probably see more of me as we get further into the launch.
Hi, everybody. My name is Allison McNeil. Last name McNeill for your minutes. I am also a client specialist on the team. I help plan and execute the launch, as well as help with other customer service and program management requests. So nice to meet you all.
Excellent. All right, so we'll dive into it. So my intent is to give a short overview of what's in the plan and talk about the process for moving the plan forward. And yeah, happy to take as much discussion as the group wants. So I see the sharing actually is blanked out for me. It's kind of grayed out.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can.
Okay. If not, I'm happy to just do this verbally.
It's okay. I think if I could just add you as a co-host real quick.
Oh yeah.
That may then allow you to do that.
Yep. Looks like we are good to go there. Okay. Okay. So my screen is loading. Great. Can you see that presentation? Excellent.
I can.
All right. So as Jamie was saying, what we are doing with aggregation, just to level set, is we are the delivery portion of the electricity system would stay the same. So Eversource will continue to deliver the power, maintain the wires, be the one you call in a storm response, and send the bill. But we'll be changing the supply that is effectively going onto the grid and going over the wires on the city's behalf. So, effectively what we're doing is creating a new default electricity supply in the city. We'll also be offering, other optional supply options as well. But yeah, it's really Easthampton kind of taking control of where its electricity comes from, and then you get the choices about, how long you fix prices for, how much renewable energy you have, things like that. And there's probably, I think there's over 150 cities and towns in Massachusetts that have aggregation programs or are in the process of launching them. So it's pretty well established at this point. So we're putting together a plan, and the plan governs the program. In general, the plan is a fairly broad document. It outlines sort of generally how the program will operate, the types of products, electricity supply options that will be offered, and the idea, and sort of like how it's managed. So how the city, what the city council's role is, what the mayor's role is, what our role as your consultant is, and generally what we try to do is build these plans in a way that once the plan is approved, it has to be approved by both the city council, but also by the state's utilities commission. And the idea is that once it's approved, that there's some flexibility for you as you go through time and implement the program. So you can react to what the market is doing, maybe what policy decisions have happened, and adjust your products that you're offering to the community kind of accordingly. So the goals that are in the plan, which we'll talk about, the plan will go out for public review. So there'll be a long public review and comment process. So the plan that we've drafted and we've started talking with the mayor about has some high-level goals. So using the bulk purchasing power of this program to secure more competitive rates, as well as the best terms and conditions that we can for the community. And you'll see at the bottom of this slide, we have a savings disclaimer that we can't guarantee savings compared to the utility. That's required by the DPU that we say that, but it's a good thing we say that, because the reality is that we don't know what the utility rates will be into the future. We don't have a perfect crystal ball, so we can't guarantee that we will have savings. But I am happy to say that our track record we have over 60 cities and towns in Massachusetts has been to deliver savings compared to the utility. So there's that sort of economic goal and customer protection goal. And then there's using and supporting clean energy, which I think when we were working with Easthampton and kind of that selection process, we understood that was a big, important part for the city, was to drive forward on clean energy goals. And also to expand consumer choice, because we're adding more electricity supply options into the mix. People can still use the competitive market if they want to shop around themselves, and they can still stay with the utility if they want. The plan you'll see has three product options, and the standard on the far left, that is the one that would be the new default in the community. The idea here is we're kind of trying to get a win-win, both economically and environmentally. So we include some additional renewable energy, but we sort of size that so we have a really good chance of still having savings compared to the utility. And that means that individually it's not a huge amount of renewable energy, but because most of the community will be using this product, it adds up to quite a big purchase, purchase of renewable energy. And then there's a basic product which just meets the state's minimum renewable energy standards. That would be the lowest cost option in the program. And then there's a 100% option. So hopefully, what we tend in our programs, we run municipalities, that you get the vast majority of people sticking with that standard. You get maybe 5% or less opting down to we call it opt down to the basic, and maybe another 5% are opting up to the 100%. And the plan does talk about using Mass Class 1 renewable energy. Many of you may be familiar with that. That effectively means new renewable energy that comes from New England. It technically can come from parts of Canada and New York. But the idea is that our state standards there's a few different parts of our state renewable standard, but Mass Class 1 is the real piece that has been driving the growth of renewables in our region. The requirement goes up every year. It's up aggressively, and that it's sort of really on pace and exceeding the growth of renewables in the region. So it's been driving growth of renewables in New England, and what you're effectively doing by purchasing even more of that is really accelerating that impact. And this is what City of Boston is doing, Worcester's doing. We have probably another 20 communities who are doing this. So collectively, communities following this approach are having a really big impact. And when talking with the mayor, she did say we're pursuing some great climate work. We want to have calculations of our potential impact and GHG reductions. We're in the process of getting the data from Eversource about how many accounts are in Easthampton that would be eligible and how much load they use. So I did some very rough calculations about what that product selection might mean in terms of avoided emissions, which is here on the screen, maybe about 3.5 million pounds of carbon dioxide per year. But we can dial that in as we get the data. And but I just wanted to kind of highlight that we can do those kind of calculations of what it would mean for the actual emissions for which the city is responsible.
Patrick, do you know real quick what your guesstimate is for the total electricity usage in town?
Great question. I'll see if I can pull that up. Basically, we're kind of assuming about 7,500 kilowatt hours per year, maybe somewhere around 5,000 eligible accounts. So kind of, yeah, we could just do that math. And then there will be, these programs are primarily residential. There's going to be some small commercial in there, and then also a few large industrial accounts. But most large industrial customers are already in their own contracts separately, so they won't be part of the program most likely. These programs have been designed to really serve the part of the market that hasn't been well served by the competitive electricity suppliers, which is really the residential market. And what you also see in the plan is we have a detailed outreach strategy for how we launch the program, particularly. And the way the program launches, once the city's actually selected an electricity supplier, and we have a start date, we have a price, we know the amount of renewable energy. Then we go through sort of an education period, we also call the opt-out period, because these programs roll out in a automatic enrollment fashion. So anyone who's using the utility's basic service supply as their supply is eligible for automatic enrollment. And that's going to be most residential customers. So what we do is there's a letter that goes out to every one of these eligible customers that says, hey, we're launching a program. You've got 30 days to decide if you want to be in or out. And that's that blue bar in the middle there, the customer notification documents. What we like to do before, what you'll see in the plan is before that goes out, we're going to do a lot of stuff, say, in the week to two leading up to that, getting our customer support line set up, getting the town and program website set up, getting the word out through press releases and social media, connecting with local groups, just kind of broadly getting the word out there so that when that letter lands across the whole city, a lot of people will already have an idea kind of what's going on. But then that letter landing really kicks off that 30-day consideration period. And during that, we want to have public meetings where people who now have got the letter, probably have questions, can come either in person or virtually to find out about the program. and learn and kind of make their own decision. And at the end of that period, then we can enroll everyone and start the program. And if you're someone who decides after that period that they want to opt out, the nice thing is the way this plan is designed is you can opt out anytime during the program. So either before the program starts, you can say never want to be in it, or you can leave at any time during the program. And the one piece, I brought in a piece here, this is something for the city to consider. The way the program is funded is we have an agreement with the city for a fee that is per kilowatt hour that the winning supplier will put into the price of electricity, and that pays for our services. And effectively, our goal is to let the city do all the decision making, but for us to do all of the implementation work to make it happen. And so basically that fee really covers all of our services. Some communities have been putting in language like what's on the screen here to include or to allow them to include another fee that could do things like, there are 3 things listed here. We could potentially use it to purchase additional renewable energy in ways like perhaps you actually want to build maybe a renewable energy system in town, and if we use the output of that to to go to the program, that could be a use. So could we collect a fee that we would use not just to buy from a supplier, but actually maybe to help build something that then serves the program? And then that's sort of number 1, and number 2 is different forms of support for local renewable projects. And number 3 here is personnel costs associated with an energy manager. The only thing there is with these fees, DPU has been very kind of narrow in what they'll approve. And so essentially this program can't be a way to collect revenue to fund general townwide things. It could basically, any fees collected through this have to go right back directly into the program and benefit program participants. So, for example, the energy manager piece, DPU has said, you could fund an energy manager's salary, but if they're spending 10% of their time on the aggregation program, you can only fund 10% of their salary, something like that. So it is limited. And I put this in here, it's in the agenda. Including this language could be good because you'd have the option to do this fee. It probably will lead to additional questions from DPU during their review process, and it certainly won't speed up your review going through it. We just don't know how much it would really slow it down. Language like this has been approved in the past, although we do have new DPU commissioners with the new governor's administration. So I guess got one more slide here, and then we can dive into the, then I'll wrap it up. So okay. Sorry, do you want to jump in?
Nope, but saying okay, go for it.
Great. So in terms of what comes next, we have this draft plan that I've kind of given a primer on. When the city's ready, we'll move it to open a public review period. There has to be a minimum of 1 month, and probably at the end of that, there's an official public hearing as well with the city council. And so that's where we're opening it up to the community for comments and questions and potential revisions to the plan. At the same time, we will request a consultation meeting with the Department of Energy Resources. That's a meeting that's kind of required by the aggregation law. So we kind of get the public's input, we get DOER's input, and ultimately we may make some changes to the plan, we may not, but then we bring the plan back to the council, their city council, for their review and approval. And if they approve it, then we can move it on to that state level review at the DPU. And that could take quite a while. Right now with the previous administration, it was averaging over 2 years, which is really just unacceptable. And we're really hoping that the new administration's DPU speeds that up. So we hope it'll be a lot faster. And but effectively, once we're approved, then we can have the option of going out to bid for electricity supply and launching the program. So, yeah, we really want to, I think, get into the queue at the DPU. So hopefully, the sooner we do that, sooner we can come out on the other side and launch a program. So, yeah, I'll stop there.
Wonderful. Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate you walking us through that. Can give us the update. Yeah, so there is the draft plan right now. The mayor is having the city solicitor take a look at that before we fully roll that out for other additional scrutiny on our side. But that comes from Good Energy's experience working in Massachusetts with other municipalities, and I haven't fully read through it or digested it yet, but I imagine a certain amount of it will be unique to us, but a lot of it's kind of just like standard, with the way these things go. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting that out there, getting that finalized, so we can put it out for the public to review. We will see, I guess, Patrick, I don't know if we need to speak with you any further, or set up a meeting once that's ready to go about how we're going to go about this process of getting things out to the public and getting on the obviously we'll handle getting on the city council agenda and those sorts of things we need to do, but sort of be looking for your guidance as to when those things need to happen.
Yeah, perfect. I think what we'll do is we'll, once we kind of get that stuff scheduled, we'll do a lot kind of, I guess, probably through the mayor's office in terms of official getting the word out through those channels, but then be great if this committee could also get the word out through the ways that you do in your own personal networks as well. I think during these processes, even if there's not a lot of substantive comment on the plan, it's great when people show up to say, like, yeah, we do want to implement a program like this, and it helps show the council that there's some good energy behind it.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you calling out the piece about the potential fees, the adder there, because I did mention that last week when we spoke, and we don't have an energy manager in town. We don't have like any a position like that. We don't have a department that really fully oversees that. We as a committee kind of have some responsibility there, but we're advisory, right? So I'm certainly interested in that. I've spoken with the mayor about it a little bit, but we don't have a clear path forward. And your explanation of the narrowness of that and how much, what limits my enthusiasm, I guess, a little bit more than I thought, because we do have other things that we would want a position like that to do. And so, it's nice to think that we could have funded it all through here, but it sounds like that's not really going to be something that's workable. And certainly we don't want to foul up the review process or make that any more difficult than it needs to be. But there may be some things, especially because we're working on this climate action plan as a city, which we will talk about shortly. There may be some other, ways to get there. That maybe this is just that sort of narrow sliver. Like, let's figure out, how much of that position would be managing an aggregation plan, and maybe it's 20% or something like that, and then we could figure out, I mean, because again, we're talking, it'd be such a small added charge to get to 20% of a yearly salary, or even like a department budget or something, that it really wouldn't be terribly noticeable or wouldn't affect the overall cost really at all. John, unmute first.
I thought I was. Question for Pat or anybody on the team. I don't think you gave any specific information about this. I don't know if you can, but I think you said you had 60, Good Energy had about 60 municipal customers you've done aggregation contracts for. How, and we know we can't guarantee savings, but somebody's must have been monitoring, you guys in particular, the typical savings that have been achieved in recent years. And I'm wondering if you can give an idea of the range in terms of I don't know if absolute numbers or just in terms of cents per kilowatt hour saved on typical contracts. The other part too is how long are the contracts usually go for? I think they're not very long term, but I mean, what's the range? Seems like, and what's the logic behind the length of the contracts?
Yeah, sure. To the second point, contracts are often, most commonly, we've seen 2 and 3 years. There has been an advantage for the last few years to procuring longer term, been able to access lower rates from suppliers, and the markets, had been fairly stable for a while, and so suppliers felt very comfortable. Sometimes when you go out too far, suppliers actually would increase the price because there's a lot of risk about what happens in the future. But that had been the case, and so you saw 3 years was really, really common for the last few years. Given what happened with energy markets over with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, particularly, and some other climate-related things, the gas markets went crazy over the last 18 months. And so we saw a lot of suppliers kind of slowing down, pausing, and also given the volatility that was there, we were recommending some shorter terms. But as part of the bidding process, we'll get a whole range of terms. Probably even get like a 4-year term just to see what it looks like. But that'd be part of the evaluation. We kind of go through with the city as a sort of, what do we know is on the horizon? Sometimes there are some known factors that we might say, oh yeah, that's coming. We could smooth out the cost if we do it a longer term, or maybe like now there's a lot of volatility still. We might say, let's go a little shorter, and then we can kind of assess where things are settling out.
Yeah, we spoke about, probably something like 2 to 3 years for an initial contract, most likely. But, of course, it'll depend on what we actually see back, but that's probably where it would shake out. Patrick did also mention at that time that there are a number of other municipalities in the Commonwealth right now that are kind of on a similar schedule to us, and it may make sense for us, and we wouldn't be in the same contract as them, but sort of going out to the market at the same time. There may be some additional aggregation, where that would be advantageous for multiple municipalities to be looking in the market at the same time. And bidders may see an opportunity to get even more kilowatt hours at the same time, and maybe offer a somewhat lower price for that. But and then John, I was looking something up while you were asking that question too, because I've seen a bunch of articles recently, and you look around, you'll see things about this across the state. But in terms of savings, so Pittsfield, for instance, there's a recent article. They've had their aggregation plan since 2018. They collectively have saved in that time over $8 million for residents and over $5 million for businesses, according to the calculations. So $13 million in savings in 5 years for Pittsfield. Again, nothing is guaranteed. We cannot guarantee it to anybody in this meeting or anybody in town because we don't know what the market will be. But generally speaking, aggregation has a very good track record with actually saving people money.
Yeah, and John, I can add to that, but if you want to go, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, John, it does keep muting you. I don't know, because sometimes the size of the meeting, it may automatically do that.
Yeah. Are the renewable energy suppliers reluctant to go? What's their risk? I mean, they're not risking the same thing that fossil fuel power producers are. They have fairly understandable not fixed, but understandable costs. They've got their equipment installed. They're relying on wind or hydro or solar. Is it the risk that they might bid lower than they need to because the market has gone high and they might lose out on some money if they come in with a bid and prices really go up? Is that their risk mostly?
I think that's accurate. I think also if we were contracting with renewable energy developers, they would love to go long. For those of you who are in the industry, you're probably looking for a 15 or 20-year contract if you're a solar developer, say. But if you're if you're reselling, if you're the retailer who's reselling that,
Okay.
you may be a little hesitant to go as long because you want to, see where the market goes and see, what you can do that for. So, and we typically tend to buy the renewable energy certificates, for the same term length as the underlying electrons. So, we tend to do the same or if we're doing 2 years for both, we'll do 2 years for both.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to your earlier point too, 10% savings might be like a reasonable thing that you might say, yeah, we could estimate that. Some communities over this last year, we're seeing like 70%, 50 to 70% savings because they locked in at,
Right.
10 cents, and Eversource was at 25, or National Grid was at 31 or 32 for 6 months. So, but it's more, and I think what motivates a lot of communities is this is a chance for us to do something pretty powerful at scale on the renewables side of things, while, actually being, a little bit cheaper, which is rare. It tends to be, like if you're doing anything on the green side of things, you're usually needing to find some money to do that. So,
Right.
So it's not windfall savings, that's for sure. But we hope it's helping. And in aggregate, like Jamie said, it can really add up.
Okay.
And it just takes us out of that volatility of the market, right? So it's like, the every 6 month roller coaster that we're currently on.
Right.
Because there's never too much pushback whenever the utilities just kind of decide, oh, this is what we're going to charge now. Not usually too much discussion. So cool. And you kind of went through, what our timeline is. Connie, go ahead.
I'm just curious about the other kinds of charges that Eversource puts on bills to get customers to pay for their infrastructure. Is that something that customers through Good Energy will also be protected from? Or are those fees added on no matter what?
Those are part of the delivery charge.
Okay.
So those are not affected by an aggregation plan.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Those are all things that DPU has also approved for them at various times to add those little 5 cents here, 23 cents here, all that stuff. So, yeah, you try to parse all that out. I think the last time I looked, there's like 15 or 20 different ones on there. It's crazy.
Right. The one nice thing on that side of the bill is the energy efficiency charge. So that funds all the efficiency programs. So the nice thing with this is that this doesn't impact anyone's ability to access the Mass Save program, because that's on the other side of the bill. So.
Mm-hmm. Right. Nor does it impact anyone's ability to join, like, say, a community solar program or something like that. Like, anybody could still have that option, because that's not a direct. It's a little bit different than a direct supply agreement. So anyway, anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, just one. How do you account or plan for growth in town? Do you know of developments going on and you take that into account? If it's just commercial development, is that something you consider, both residential and commercial?
Yeah. So these contracts are written and the plan's written. So there's no minimum kilowatt hour demand that you have to meet, and there's no maximum either. So suppliers are pretty comfortable with that. But that said, there are some ways that the suppliers do manage their risk. So they're pretty comfortable with the residential and small commercial turnover risk. So the way the plan is written, if we're in the middle of a contract, any new residential or small commercial customer who moves into town, they get the contracted rate, whatever that is. But if you're in the large industrial group, that group, whoever is in town at the time of bidding that the supplier knows about, they're going to get the contracted rate. But then if new industrial customers either move into town or maybe they come off their private supply contract and want to join the aggregation, the supplier who's serving the aggregation has the right to offer them a market rate rather than the contracted rate. And that's really helpful to keep the price lower for everybody else in the program, because we did see this particularly over the last couple of years. You had a lot of large customers coming off of their rates, which were really, really high, and wanting to get into some of these 10-cent aggregation rates, which of course the suppliers didn't plan for that growth. And so that's just kind of the answer there. So we don't really have to plan for projected load growth necessarily. It's kind of just managing the risk that way.
And one other thing that will happen is I think we'll end up creating what we're going to have a name for the plan or whatever, the offering at some point, and there will be what we put up. We're going to put up a website or something like that. I hadn't really thought through that part of it so much, but on the back end, we'll have something that people can refer to as well, that will help us manage the program. And
yeah, we'll definitely get a website. What's one of the things we'll do is we'll build a website for the program. We'll link it with the town site, and you'll be able to enroll, switch products, opt out. There'll be all the information about the program up there. There's kind of all the terms and conditions for the rates. All that stuff.
Great. Sean, you have a hand up there? No. I can't hear.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I should have adjusted setting. My name is Sean Abbott. I live at Summer Street. SEANABBOTT.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if there was because I kind of want to see the draft plan before I fire hose any questions out. Is there a good point of contact for an email question or anything like that?
Just to get a copy of that draft plan once it's made.
No, I mean after I've seen that, I was wondering if I could just email some questions rather than saying them out loud in the meeting. Just if I read through the questions after that.
Yes, absolutely. I can certainly make my contact information available to that. I'm trying to think of how we would normally do that. Cassie, I know yours is more publicly available as the lone city employee on the call.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do my email, or also it sounds like we're going to be doing public, an organized public outreach that might have a particular avenue for it. But of course, my email is, I'll put it in the chat here in a second if that's available, if that's something that would work for you, Sean.
Yep, that sounds great. Thank you.
I'll put it in the chat.
And then, Cassie can share. But Patrick, you had a comment to make.
Yeah, I was just going to say, once we get to public review, what we'd probably do is have we have the plan posted on the website with a comment form that would collect everything via email so we could get back to people. So, yeah, it sounds like both of these would work well.
Okay,
great. Thank you.
The chat isn't available, which is fine, but the email is just the word conservation at easthamptonma.gov. And if you go to the city website for the Conservation Commission, you'll see that email there. So that'll reach me.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Right. Connie?
Oh, you still have your hand raised, Connie.
Oh, that was an accident. Okay. Accident. Hand raising. Okay, wonderful. Well, the folks from Good Energy, I value your time and thank you for coming and sharing the progress. Very exciting to be past a couple of the initial hurdles and moving towards actual implementation here. So looking forward to being able to share that draft plan a little bit more widely. For any comments right now we want to have before we put it out to the public. So that'll be the next part of the process, and hopefully it's relatively smooth sailing from there.
That sounds great. Well, thank you for having us. Pleasure to meet you all.
Yeah, feel free, ping me or let me know if and when you need stuff for me to keep things on track. Or so, we only meet once a month, but obviously there's a lot can go down in between that time. So,
indeed, great. All right, we'll do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rachel, Allison, Rafida. Okay. That meeting's going to get a little smaller here. Thanks you all for bearing with that. I think it's important. It's a big thing that we've been working on for a while. So exciting to see some progress. Several other things here, though, to go through. So let's move into the climate action plan, another big thing currently being undertaken. With a couple of you here who haven't been involved in that conversation, I'll try to just put a little quick bow on it. The city is contracted with a company called Weston & Sampson to put together a climate action plan, which sort of spells out, or will eventually spell out, right now it's sort of data gathering, but will eventually spell out goals and actions for the city to take, or sort of medium and long term, to help combat the climate emergency that the city council has passed and that we all are, of course, are dealing with day to day. So it's looking at all manner of different things across the residential, commercial, governmental spectrum, and assessing, where the opportunities are for us to, as a municipality, to put some things into action. So one step of that was to do a public survey, try to gather some information that way from residents and businesses, to see what people's thoughts are and where the needs are from the public perspective. So that's been ongoing, and some more stuff. But Cassie, let me turn it over to you for some more.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, Jamie. That was perfect. I know it's kind of a big, broad project, but yeah, I was hoping that we could talk about some of the things I emailed about in more depth. And that is, the next public event for outreach that we're going to do, the survey, and then the greenhouse gas inventory update, and then just generally info about environmental justice communities kind of wrapped into there. But the first thing that I was hoping to try to nail down with you guys was we'd like to try to figure out a good date for the next public event. And once I have that, then I can incorporate that in the outreach for the survey and kind of everything else that comes underneath. And Weston & Sampson had kind of recommended and asked if the last week of September, that's from September 25th, any day from September 25th to September 30th, do you guys think would be a good day? Maybe one that would just work best for the majority of you to try to hold this meeting. And we're going to do all kinds of other stuff on top of that to make it as accessible as possible to folks. But that was kind of like a good window for them and their schedule, but also in fitting with kind of their trajectory and time we have left. In the kind of plan that they already or timeline that they put in their contract with us. So if we had this meeting the last week of September, it means we could keep the survey open to the beginning of September, and then they'd be able to do their kind of deep analysis of the survey results for the rest of September and be ready to have more supported discussion of possible actions the city can incorporate in the plan at that September meeting at the end of the month. So that was kind of the logic of why they were hoping for that week. And then, I was hoping that there might be a time that you guys all thought would be the best within that week to do it.
This would be an evening event or a daytime, or?
It would be an evening event. It would probably be, the location is not yet known. We're trying to focus on trying to make it as accessible to environmental justice communities as possible. And in Easthampton, all the environmental justice community or neighborhoods identified are income-based. So we're trying to do things that is most supportive for folks who might have a lower income, or that, the work is harder to move around. So evenings generally are better. And then we wanted to try to provide childcare and even rides. That they've done it through other meetings in Easthampton, like the one they did for the Main Street planning session. They made rides. The city council, Council on Aging, made their ride service available for that evening. And then also they were providing childcare during the meeting. So all those things we want to try to incorporate. And it seems like the evening generally is a better time in that regard, but there wasn't a set time put in either. So if you guys think 7 or 6, I think the last one was 6 o'clock, I think, right? When we did the first informational meeting, pretty sure.
Which was online. Yeah. I think that's right.
It's always hard to know. 6 o'clock is dinner time. So some people don't want to do it then. Other people feel like if you wait till 7, it's too late. very difficult to know. I mean, people with kids, I don't, you know, it is really tough.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're getting childcare, then you're bringing your kids. So we want it to be earlier, I would assume.
Right.
Also, there are a lot of Jewish holidays in September that we have to be aware of. I was just trying to look them up.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that.
For some reason, my calendar isn't showing them. I don't know why. But September 15th to the 17th is Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur is the 24th to the 25th.
Okay.
So
not the 25th, then we can cross that off.
And what, I know, sorry. I need one more screen apparently. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what would be a best day for me. You know, a little bit later is going to be better for me, like around 7 probably.
Okay.
Soccer schedule is tricky. I don't know what days, like, you know, I may be dealing with practices or whatever right now. So, but any day, you know, around 7, I could probably make work.
Okay.
I mean, maybe we just get to decide because it's our committee and we get to decide that we want to do it at 7, you know, and I really like the idea of offering rides. I think that's really important. And I wonder whether we could do it at 50 pace, and I don't know when they're going to get their issues resolved.
Oh man, I mean, yeah, definitely the hope is that it would be resolved by then, surely. But the thing of it that's interesting is that feedback that's often been received is that having it somewhere other than town hall is sometimes very preferred for whatever reason and can make it a little more attractive or accessible to folks if you don't do it at town hall. So that was kind of a question of like, maybe we could do it somewhere else. Oh, and that specifically can be, is like an identified draw for whatever reason, not having it at City Hall. And then the last piece is offering food, which we want to try to do too. So not necessarily like a dinner, but something so that people don't have, you know, can get something out of it from going. So, but it is a good question, Connie. Like it might just make sense just to do it at City Hall, but
yeah, I know that Acadia would let us do it there. I've had events there in the past when I was running a group trying to get stuff to happen. Jonah is very open to doing that. The only problem is their internet service is terrible. Maybe it's better now, but we couldn't do you know, have a live feed to anything we did. We could record something, and then the cable company was willing to broadcast it for us, but we couldn't do anything live because that's the other thing. It seems like this should be something that people could access on Zoom or whatever, right?
Yes.
We wanted to add as well. We wanted to do both.
That's what I was envisioning because we did. I don't know if any of you all were able to go to the for the Bees committee when they did that was
right.
Hybrid. And they really figured out a way to do it, which I thought was generally pretty successful. They certainly had participants hybrid and they were able to record it, and it seemed like it worked out for the most part. I think we could figure that out.
Yeah. So about the new school, could we do it at the new school?
Maybe, yeah, right. Maybe
I mean, a lot of people wouldn't find that very easy to get to. It's, you know, it's kind of actually not very convenient for a lot of people, especially the people in the communities we're talking about. But on the other hand,
the high school may be a better choice in that regard, just more centrally located. And
it's not that, but still, I mean, if we're talking about people, because from looking at the map, aren't they pretty far away from the high school as well?
No, because there's that whole area around Main Street and Union Street and like over into that area, even like Ward Avenue and stuff like that, I think is part of it.
Okay. And you know, as long as we're offering transportation, the truth is most people can get anywhere really, I think.
The other option that we thought of before was the mills. If there's somewhere at the mills, that would make sense. So we definitely have options in that way. And so the big thing is really just trying to nail down the date. And then once I have a date, we can include that in the flyer. And then all the info about like where that can come later and can be like part of the outreach. That's fine. But I totally agree. We're going to try to have a virtual option and increase all those accessibility things. And, you know, it's interesting talking because they tried to do this for the Main Street meeting. That's kind of like the best other example of really trying to do the environmental justice community outreach. And they had the childcare available and the rides, and no one utilized them, which is too bad. I don't think that's a reason that we shouldn't do it, though. I think it just means maybe we should try to think about other ways to do the outreach. And that's why my conversation with the woman who's been working with River Valley was very, very valuable in that she was like, you really should focus on trying to do outreach at the community center kind of food distribution, which is my plan. But we can talk about it in a second. I just really want to try to nail down a date as like, because that's kind of the last piece for me to try to start doing that outreach.
Yeah. The only other question is, do people ever do these things on weekends? Like during the day? Is that a good idea? Not a good idea?
There's pros and cons to both. I think I remember there weren't a lot of people at our informational meeting, but when we did the outreach, that was one of the questions we asked at the end, is like, what day and time would people prefer? The people who were there obviously seemed cool with, doing it during the week and in the evening. Obviously that works for them. They're there, but they didn't necessarily say they had preference for the weekend. But I think that's a good question. Like maybe it would make more sense, but
my instincts are that stay away from weekends because people want to have weekends for fun, for family activities, for kids, and may be going away. They're more likely to carve out an hour or whatever to participate in something on a weeknight, especially if we can do childcare. And that's just I don't have any science to back that up. It's just lifetime experience. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I don't have anything really to back it up with either, frankly. But
okay. So as far as like choosing a date, what more? I don't know. Do you need to get with Weston and Sampson and just like figure out what works for them and just kind of pick something, or?
Yeah, because Weston and Sampson said anything that week from 9:25 to 9:30.
Okay. What week?
September 25th to the 30th.
Okay.
Or I guess the Monday, 25th to the 29th is the Monday to Friday. So.
But it sounds like the 25th maybe is a no because that's a holiday.
Yeah, we should definitely, definitely do it after that. Yeah.
And I would avoid it. I would avoid a Friday evening too. So I think you're looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Why don't we just let you guys pick from amongst those, and we don't have to micromanage that, and you best thought their considerations and their observations about what'll work best. Maybe something will come up. Well, we can't wait till the last minute, but maybe if something will come up, if we find out that the Red Sox are in the World Series. No, that's not going to happen.
Got to look into that. Yeah.
Presidential address on some night we don't want to conflict with, but
oh dear God, yeah.
You can't plan ahead for that, but
right.
And also, is there anything going on in the schools? Like September is a very busy time for back to school stuff. We don't want it to be back to school night for parents that night.
So I had to talk. Jeff is on vacation, but I was able to talk to him before he went on vacation. He's got 2 kids in the schools, and I gave him this window. Is there anything city-wise that he would potentially know about? Nothing. It didn't raise any red flags for him for that week. So I'm thinking we're probably good. That's just that's very broad. I mean, just check specifically with the school, but
are his kids in both schools? Like the high school?
They're not. No one's in high school. Yeah.
No.
But check that,
Yeah. And there's a good amount of stuff that maybe is known but isn't publicly available too about what's going on in schools yet. The general calendars out there, but specific events or it's like, whatever else might be happening. We just don't know.
Yeah.
So always gonna be competition with something. So let's just pick a day and then can move forward with that. And you mentioned a little bit about the ongoing survey. I don't know if responses to that are still coming in, if there's still promotion being done actively, or there's going to be another round of that going out between now and.
Definitely, we've been in a lull since the informational meeting. It's still been active. People can still do it. We've got a couple more people who took it. And the last time I told you guys it was at 150 or something, but now it's at 200 something. So still active. People can take it. And now what I would like to do, through the month of August and September just mainly through the month of August is this renewed push that's focused on environmental justice communities, outreach to them. Yes, Alexis.
Hi, I don't know what survey you're talking about, and I haven't filled it out. Can you share it in the chat, or I guess the chat's disabled?
The chat is closed, but it's if you go to the city website and go to current plans or go to planning planning department, and then current projects, I think you have to scroll all the way to the bottom, but there's a climate action plan there. But so for that original push, what we did for the survey was we did a press release. We did a bunch of posts on social media, every single type of social media that we could get on, for the city police, for the planning department, for the Facebook, Instagram. We handed out flyers and did a lot of tabling at the cultural chaos and at the farmers market. And we also did a mailer out to the school and all the students at the school before the school year ended. And so that went home and all the students. And then what was the last piece of it that we did?
Sorry, where do I find it on the website again?
You go under departments.
And then current department. Current projects.
Department's current projects?
Planning department,
Yep.
projects, all the bottom. Should find climate action.
Over on the left-hand side, yeah.
Left-hand side. More planning.
Let me see. Yeah, can I put anything in the chat? Oh, I think I can actually. So I just put something in the chat here. I think I may be the only one that can do it.
Okay.
Didn't realize this. We've done too many online meetings in a while.
So that does bring up a question, though. If you go onto the City of Easthampton website, the first page has some announcements periodically. Could we get the survey right there so that whoever goes on for any reason sees there's a survey that they could take? That might be useful. I don't know how that happens, but
I think there was a period of time when we were making that push that it was on there. I think because we did the press release. But yeah, I think that we probably did again. I'm certainly planning to do another press release.
It'd be nice if they could just sit there until.
Yeah, I'll ask.
That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing they have on there is the City of Easthampton's Facebook feed, right? So anything that gets posted to the City of Easthampton page is what's there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can it's like reverse chronological, right? So it's like the newest stuff, and then you scroll down. It's like, so it's not anywhere on there because it's been a while, and they've got, they post a good amount of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, certainly we can ask. I don't know that they'd be willing to like freeze the rest of the feed and like keep that at the top. Maybe for a couple of days they would do it. Or again, maybe if just get them to repost it to the page, whoever's in charge of that. So that way it would just jump back up to the top for a little bit.
Definitely doing that. I plan to redo all those efforts that we did originally. I mean, cultural chaos isn't happening again during this time period, but they are doing a number of like concert series. So it's going to try to like table at least one of those. But the biggest thing to try to focus this second effort, it's the same survey, but then it's a new event and then the same survey. To try to focus on environmental justice communities. When I was learning from this woman who's been working with the Valley Co-op, she was willing to share it on her email list of folks that would qualify for being part of those environmental justice communities. So sending it to her and having her help share it that way, but then also trying to do our own outreach and connection through the community center and that food distribution. She was like, that's the most valuable thing you can do is be there during those and stand there and hand the flyers out and talk to people about it, which makes total sense to me. I mean, that felt very constructive at Cultural Chaos, just generally for connecting to the public. But this felt really important to do in that way. And the last piece was making sure that we probably reach out to people who own the laundromats so we can put up flyers there and leave some of the flyers behind so people can take it while they're doing their laundry. But laundromats.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Say that again. What was the last thing?
Focusing on laundromats.
Oh, laundromats. Okay, right.
Because those are typically used by folks who probably would fall within those income-based environmental justice communities.
So, do you mean like having a physical presence, have people just putting up signs?
Yeah, having a flyer there and then take home flyers and take it. Alexis, did you have something?
Oh, I mean, I check all of the community boards, the ones at Easthampton, Sheldon Falls. I think there's one at Big E's. I haven't seen this anywhere or didn't jump out when I was actually posting stuff at all of them. So I stared at them pretty consistently.
I'm sorry. What are you saying? Sorry.
There's bulletin boards at both grocery stores and Sheldon Falls. I don't know where else people frequent, but that's where I tend to try to find stuff.
Yeah, we
and if it has a QR code, then you can go directly onto the survey.
Exactly.
So are they going to be giving us the new flyers? We have to get the date as soon as we get the date. Okay.
Yes.
Because I do have the time to do some of this, just getting the flyers in various places and, just let me know what you need as soon as we get the flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely have a list of those bulletin boards that Alexis mentioned when we did the first push. We posted things there on those ones at the Big E and all the bulletin boards we could find really. And John, Pepe, and I went down to every single business along Cottage and Union Street and handed them a flyer in hopes that they would either post it or at least take it for themselves. But I'd like to do that again now that we're going to have the new flyer with the new QR code for the, or the same QR code for the meeting and new information about the event. So yeah, definitely should do that again, in my opinion, but just with a little bit more focus on those laundromats, in that those places are, just used by people who might fit within that demographic. We're trying to make sure we at least gave the opportunity to be.
And I wondered, like the Dunkin' Donuts, the gas station, some of the places that sell food as well. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Cassie, excuse me. Go ahead, John. Cassie, were you talking about just handing at the community center events, whether they food distributions or whatever, handing the same kind of document we had before, which is just a URL connection? You're not talking about actual surveys? Because
no, we can bring physical surveys if we want, because we have them set up.
You do.
We made the paper versions. So
you did. Okay, I haven't seen it. How does it look? Is it look like a book, or is it? I mean, is it a couple pages?
It's a couple pages. That was I sent you guys those PDFs.
Oh, I missed that. Okay,
it's okay.
I would go and just into the neighborhoods that are designated environmental justice and knock on doors and hand them to people or put them in mailboxes.
One thing about handing out and putting in mailboxes is that it's technically illegal. You can't physically put things in people's mailboxes.
Right.
That is illegal. So
you can put it in door handles.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, I think Weston and Sampson and this woman that I spoke to, they were kind of like mailers. People kind of get them and they throw them. It's not really worth it. You want to go to those events where they're there and talk to them, because they're there. But they're getting it in the mail. They're kind of like, I don't know. That just seems to be the experience both those folks have had thus far with mailers. Is that like it's not as valuable? Certainly it doesn't hurt, but
a mailer is different than knocking on somebody's door and saying a couple words to them and handing them something, and they know what it's about. I mean, I just think there's an advantage when somebody has a look at the document. What is this about? Somebody mentions it, or they have a quick look at what the document covers, what the subject matter is, versus I got to go get my computer or my phone, pull up the URL, send that document to my laptop or desktop where I can actually, get in there and do something. It's just some different steps they have to go through that they don't have to when you hand them a.
Well, didn't we talk about having hard copies of the survey? We did discuss that at our last meeting, that we would have hard copies available.
We do. Yep.
Yeah.
We made those and they're available. So I can certainly bring them with me when doing the outreach at the distribution center.
So, and do you need help in that? Do you want, like, if you let us know when you're going to go, if I'm available, I'll show up.
That's awesome. No, I really appreciate that, because I'm not sure yet, but I think likely I will, because I don't know. What I need to do now is reach out to the woman who runs it and get information from her, and permission certainly, of just going and like taking part of it, but also what's the schedule. Then once you know the schedule, I can reach out to y'all and be like, okay, here's the days, who can go when. Like, I'll definitely be able to go at least a couple times is my goal. But
yeah. So let's focus on that sort of thing, on figuring out schedule for that. I know you've mentioned too that the woman from River Valley said was willing to share like with a list that she's generated. But then if you're going to do flyering, right? If there's going to be, certain places that you're going to be, right? Let's get those dates set, and then if outreach, if you all want to help, or we all want to help, like go out post flyers, or go and be at an event and talk to people.
And then we talked about getting those Lego toys from the mayor to give to people who fill out the survey. If she's got them, we might as well grab them. And
oh, I like that. I think it'd be cool. Definitely, if there's something we can give away at the event and be like, you can get this at the event, because that's what they were saying.
Yeah,
it would be it's going to be very valuable if some of these folks are willing to come to the event, because that's where we're going to be kind of more free form, trying to get their opinion on actions that we can put into the plan. And so definitely at the very least, it'd be great to have those at the event. If not, I don't know how, with the survey, maybe we can hand them out like with the flyer, at the distribution center or something.
Yeah. I mean, that might be a good thing to do at the community center, right? To have like a small amount of those, if they're possible, like bring them along, and then first 10 people who fill out a survey get something or something like that.
Could we hold the event at the community center? Do they have a place that it would? Because that might
be a good idea. I like that idea.
I'll ask them. I've only been inside once.
I've never
and it was very full of like material, like handout material stuff. I don't know what the rest of the building is like, but that first floor was very, very well occupied, I would say. But I think it's worth asking.
A real quick look at their website they do have a meeting space.
Hey, okay.
So they're available for birthday parties, family gatherings, bridal or baby showers, or climate action plan.
But can we do a hybrid? I wonder if they have the capacity for a hybrid event. That would be the only other question.
That would be a question.
But Easthampton Media might help us with that. They might be, because they do loan equipment. I've borrowed equipment from them, but they might also be able to help us actually do the hybrid event.
Right.
They've been very helpful in the past about stuff like that. So
definitely. And then even failing that, the IT department has gone a lot more like speakers and like things like that for hybrid stuff, which hopefully they might even be already ready to help us, not even going through Easthampton Media. I don't know, but it's just like another potential option. So definitely.
I do like the idea of the community center. I feel like that's like being really more inclusive than some of the other venues that we might come up with. I think that's a good idea if we can do it.
Okay. So Cassie, you're going to reach out to the community center, figure out the logistics for maybe being there on a day that they're doing some distribution, or maybe multiple days for an hour or two, try to get people to do the survey. Let Connie know, and then Connie, if and when you have some dates on that and you want to reach to the mayor's office, reach out to Lindsay in the mayor's office maybe and say, hey, the mayor mentioned there's some of this stuff we want to, if you could take that on.
I will do that.
Time, that would be great. She would be the person to start with, I would say. And then we can think about what we might want to do. We'll have another meeting to discuss before the public meeting, that we can sort of discuss things we want to do at that event once we know the date and possibly location. So
and so basically what Weston and Sampson is going to do, like we're going to push the survey again this whole month, and then Weston and Sampson is going to close the survey in the beginning of September, and then they'll be able to start going through that data and start just like primers for what the discussion can kind of start and focus around during the actual event. So we'll still be doing outreach in September, but the focus will no longer be on survey responses, but rather advertising that this event is coming and it's happening, and here's how it's going down. Here's how folks can go there. So I guess my question is, I wanted to try to give Weston and Sampson as soon as possible a date. It sounds like generally y'all are okay with that week.
Yes.
Like
the 26th, the 27th, or the 28th.
Okay.
Whichever is better for them, right, Jamie?
Yes.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay, I'll put it in there. Yeah.
And then what's your ongoing weekly meetings with them? Are they still at the same set time, or
bi-weekly, same time, 9:30 on Thursdays, every other Thursday, and that link that I've shared in the past is the same link every time, so y'all can join in whenever you like.
Okay, what time of day is that again? Sorry, it's like in the morning, right?
9:30 a.m.
9:30. Okay.
And is this the week that they're having a meeting?
Good question. I want to say no, but let me double check here. Hold on. And let me know if you're going to go, just so that if they, sometimes on the fly, we'll be like, oh, can we meet at 10 or something?
Sure.
Yeah. Move it around so I can let y'all know if it moved. Yes. So on the 10th, we're doing one at 9:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can get at, I've raised this before, but before they, Weston and Sampson spends a lot of time, you know, rather than wait for 6 weeks or something before we hear what the surveys are saying. This stuff belongs to us. We're paying for it. It could be stimulating and creative process for us to read some of that stuff as we go here now, not wait for Weston and Sampson to analyze it and cut it up in all kinds of different ways and present it. So can you ask if there's a way for us to look at some of that raw survey information right now? Read through some of it?
Yeah, I think so. I know I've sent some stuff, but it was mostly focused on the greenhouse gas inventory. So I don't know. I just emailed like right before this meeting started. I apologize. I wasn't able to get it to y'all sooner, but they weren't able to get it to me very much sooner. But that was one of the things I would hope y'all would do, is at least some point into the future, take a look at that and give me some of your feedback on it. The focus of the greenhouse gas.
I will. I just saw it today.
Yeah, I know. I just sent it. It's not enough time for today.
You know, maybe even by Thursday.
Okay, yeah, whenever. It would be really helpful. Yeah, by Thursday would be great, because then I can give it back to him. But you know, or anyone who wants to come can talk to him about it. But if y'all could just email me on your own parts, you know, if you have, you know, it's a lot of material, but don't feel like there's still an opportunity after this Thursday. If you don't make it to this Thursday, that's totally fine. But that was more focused, my understanding is on the greenhouse gas inventory. So definitely I will ask them about preliminary survey data or the raw data.
Okay. Anything further on climate action plan at the moment?
Let me just check my notes really quick.
Yeah.
No, basically those are the main things. I'll be in touch with you all with an email of just like, here's all the different outreach things I'm going to do. It's going to be all the stuff we did before again, and then these new pieces, and then try to give you guys like by the end of the week, certainly like a schedule of how I'm going to try to do it. And then you guys can, or how we can try to do it. So go.
Thanks.
So we're going to, so they are, as soon as they have a date, they are going to make the new flyer.
Yeah. Yep.
And it will include an automatic way to take the survey, and then we'll also have a bunch of hard copies to take places.
You'll have so the flyer, just like last time, we'll have a QR code that you just have to write to the survey, but then also we'll have the information being like this date, like save the date. Last time, I think that one of the reasons we didn't get a lot of participation in that meeting is because you had to register, or it seemed like you didn't have to register, but it had a link to register. And
get rid of that.
We're getting rid of that. Yeah, I didn't like that, and I didn't know we were going to use that system, and I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. So, we're going to get rid of that. So it's much more like you just go to the link and you're in the meeting, which I think makes way more sense. But yeah, that'll be the flyer, and then yes, whenever I do, I'll always print a bunch of versions, paper versions when we do the handout. If people prefer to do it that way, they can have it that way.
Great.
Okay. I'm going to move us on here. We are at 4:30. Let me be mindful.
Thank you, Cassie.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Cassie. We'll get into some lightning round stuff here. The school bus electrification. So John and I did meet the other day to sort of discuss all the latest happenings with this, so we could kind of help boil it down a little bit for this meeting. John, you want to give us the synopsis of your recent travels in this space?
Yeah, I've had a lot of contacts with people at various levels and who play different roles in this whole thing in the last since our last July meeting. One of which was a good meeting with the representative of on the Northampton School Committee, Michael Stein, who was happy to meet and discuss, what's going on in this arena and what they've done in the past, what their situation is, and he's supportive of of trying to take a regional approach to whether it's going out to bid on bus services or jointly pressuring Durham and just problem solving together. And he, I said I would get back to him once we actually spoke to our own school committee and maybe got something back from the Hampshire Regional. And at the moment, we have tentative slots in meetings, the 22nd with our own school committee, and the 28th of August with the Hampshire Regional School Committee. I was concerned for our own meeting. I did speak with Nick Bernier, the business manager, again, telling him I wanted to update him with some new information I'd gotten from this consultant, Richard Labrie, about the grants. This guy's running Fall River. I get it mixed up with Fall River and New Bedford. I apologize to Fall River and New Bedford. They just both big cities in the southeastern part of the state to me, low-income cities. He's managing their whole implementation. They've got a grant for like 12 buses, and they're going to go for 12 more. But he's been in this business. He's the one who's worked the regional bids with the Franklin County Council of Governments and with some Berkshire organization. But after having talked with him, I mean, the grant picture looks pretty bleak. For a lot of reasons. There's just not enough money to go around. The priorities are big chunks of money and buses you can allocate all at once, just sort of more bigger bang for the buck for the government grant program. Bigger cities, environmental justice communities, or rural or very rural communities, which we don't qualify as. So, but it is possible that a vendor can put together a big enough proposal then involving multiple school districts that'll get more attention. So if we were able to pressure or convince Durham to act and on behalf of several school districts, whether dealing with them each individually or we've worked to, a group kind of entity approaching them together. So that's still possible. I did relook at the first round that had been awarded. The next round that's closed in August that we haven't heard the results of yet. Second round. I was mostly familiar with the criteria and eligibility, and we didn't come anywhere close on any of those. Okay, we're not rural enough, not a big enough order. You needed at least 15 school buses, that sort of thing. They're going to come out with another round though. Later this year. I talked to somebody at the Natural Resources Defense Council in DC that's involved with this. Actually, I'm getting that mixed up. It's one of those big environmental, I forget which one it is that's doing this. Sorry. They don't know. They'll keep us posted, but they don't know what the priorities and the criteria are in that grant round. But I think it's supposed to be more like the first one. So they may not have the big restrictions that you got to do 15 buses or 25 or 50 buses. So I looked at the first round again because the third round might resemble the first round again. And in the first round, we got Chesterfield Goshen got put on a wait list with, and they were considered, they met priority criteria. Orders for 4 and 5 buses were, acceptable in that program. They didn't get them. They were waitlisted, and there's no guarantee they don't get first priority on the next round. But I think if it's that kind of a grant program they're coming out with later, there's a better chance than the current one we're looking at right now. So we got to keep our tabs on that. But going forward, from talking to this consultant, talking to Michael Stein, it just seems as if that we're going to need to be working together with other districts that if even if we can't use the bulk ordering or scale economies with a group of communities and districts to get ourselves a grant that's something we can use to improve our situations and our bargaining power with the vendors, the bus transportation companies, and just in terms of what the costs are and charges are in terms are of our bus contracts. And that's a reason I think our neighbors and the surrounding districts could and should be interested, is that they can save money, for one thing. But then once you're working together, you can also use that joint presence to hopefully, the theory is to put more pressure on the vendors and maybe be more attractive as a grant recipient, all of that. So the next things are these meetings with the school committees. I did put in a word. Oh, I also called, our consultant said he didn't see any reason, our consultant, the guy I've been calling our consultant, who's not really our consultant, but he's in the business, Richard Labrie, said there's no reason he could think of that Hampshire Educational Collaborative couldn't do for us what the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative did for their towns, running a bus transportation program and going after a federal grant and getting it. And they got, I think, 20 buses or something. Mm-hmm. I called them. They're going to look into it, what their possibilities are. They've so far not been involved in this kind of thing before. They just do commodities, school supplies, things like that, books, whatever. So I'll wait to hear from them, but I told them I would check into the other regional organizations that supposedly had gotten together and done joint procurements before for bus services. Franklin Council of Governments, I've got a couple calls in there to different people. I couldn't track down the Berkshire Collaborative he mentioned because the Southern Berkshire Education Collaborative is no longer exists. So anyway, next steps. Jamie and I were talking about coverage for these meetings, and I'm not sure about the 22nd. I am supposed to be in Truro on a camping thing that's been planned for 6 months or more now.
Yeah, you'll be there. Yeah, I might
be able to find a way to get online for a virtual hybrid meeting. If you cover it and I back you up, I might be able to get online for something, but I don't think I'll be able to be there for the 22nd.
Yeah, I mean, I can be there for the 22nd, and I can give a quick, so just sort of introduce the topic and some of the work that we've done to date and what we're pursuing, and you and I can suss that out a little bit beforehand, and just kind of see what we want their takeaway to be. Right? Do we want them to just start thinking about it? Do we want them to think about a show of support in some way, or what? So we'll brainstorm around that a little bit. The 28th I cannot do, so if you can be able to go to Hampshire on that day.
I've actually talked with Kim Schott, who's the school committee person who was not very available, but who said I could put you on the agenda for the 28th. I just started calling the school department offices to try to identify who are the people in your districts or in your staff or whatever who put in these grant applications. There were grant applications for buses from Westhampton, Chesterfield, Goshen, Williamsburg, and Southampton, and the Hampshire Regional put one in. So if Kim Schott can't put me in touch with someone who knows what's going on up there, so we don't show up completely ignorant of what they've done and what arrangements they have, one of these people who applied for grants on behalf of those communities should be able to. And I reached the superintendent's administrative assistant today there at Hampshire Regional, and she's smoothing the path for me a little bit. I think we'll find somebody before that meeting so we know what's going on before we talk with them.
Okay. Connie, you had your hand up first. Do you have a specific question?
Yeah, no, wait a minute. What do I want to? Oh, these people that you're mentioning, I'm confused about who they are. Richard Labrie.
Richard Labrie is a consultant and right now consults mostly with government, not with the industry. Who we've talked to a number of times before. I've sent some summaries to the group about stuff he said. He just goes.
I guess my question is, how is it? He's just out of the goodness of his heart providing you with consultation or is he a consultant for the city? That's what I don't.
No, he's just very interested in this subject. He's a public sector guy. Basically, he ran the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative in their bus transportation program for a number of years, and he's worked with these other collectivities of municipalities who are trying to solve their school transportation issues. And I just got lucky, and he's very willing to talk. He's willing to come and meet with us at some point when it becomes meaningful. Let's say if we get together with Hampshire Regional and Northampton, you know, to explore things, maybe we can get him there.
Okay, and then there was somebody else you mentioned, Michael Stein.
Michael
Stein, school committee from Northampton.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't tell you much about that, but basically they went down some path a little bit with Highland Electric, and then Highland Electric seemed to lose interest in them after a bit when they wanted more specifics from them, which Jamie and I were kind of hazarding a guess that, you know, they're just too small potatoes for Highland Electric right now as a potential financier of electric buses or supplier of electric buses.
So the only other question I have is thinking about times that I've been involved with trying to get the city council to do things. I've never interacted with the school committee, but it's been useful to contact individual members first before going to the entire committee with a presentation. And I don't know whether anybody has any relationship with anybody in the school committee, but I just wonder whether it would be to our advantage to see if there are any school committee members who would already be on board with, you know.
Well, we got Maren Goldstein, who used to be a member of our committee.
Right, but
and
is he going to be an enthusiastic advocate for us, do you think?
Well, I think he'll be an enthusiastic advocate for the idea. He's also a school committee member who has to be cognizant of their budget limitations,
right,
and where they are in their contracting process. And, you know, but yeah, and the mayor is in that meeting, and she's pretty well aware, I think, of what we've been up to. And I agree with you.
And there are, you know, several new people on the school committee, like interim members, and then everyone's getting elected again this fall, right? So there's like new people throwing their hat. I know one gentleman who's about to, you know, who's collecting signatures to run, all that. So there's going to be some changeover there as well. So I think right now we're just trying to get it in front of them, just kind of get it in their minds.
Okay.
More than anything. And I wanted Alexis to get a chance to ask her question. Oh, you're muted though.
Hi, sorry.
No worries.
This is like a little bit of a wild goose chase, but I sit on the PVPC, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and PVPT is already going through this process, and it sounds like it's a completely different channel of grants, but it seems like you guys should be able to talk to each other.
PVTA, he's saying.
Yeah, PVTA, sorry. Yeah, they're electrifying their buses.
Well, they're different buses. There are different sources of money, and they're not school buses. It's a different financial channel for getting support from the federal government. You know, in terms of experience with running electric buses and dealing with charging infrastructure, I'm sure they'd have a lot to tell us. I did contact Alexis, people at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission in transportation to tell them what we were interested in, what's been going on, and what we see as the obstacles, and did they have anything to offer. And they referred me, you know, different places, but it didn't sound like they were ready to. They didn't feel like they were ready to jump in, and it wasn't quite their bailiwick right now. So,
fair enough.
But at some point, we should be. We'll have stuff to learn from PVTA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Alexis, just a quick bit of background is that, you know, Easthampton doesn't own any buses or operate them. That's done with a contract with Durham Transportation, who also does Northampton and Southampton. So the school committee and the budget does not include a line item for purchasing of, you know, even with grants and things like that, or the ongoing maintenance, or, you know, having bus drivers on staff that we pay. Like, all that's kind of outsourced right now. It's a little bit of the source of like not having a clear path forward with how we want to do this and why we're kind of exploring. And John's been tireless and like exploring lots of different avenues. And we've kind of come up with this, trying to get us in Northampton and Hampshire Regional all on the same page, because they're all our contracts with the same company. They're all stored here in Easthampton, is where their depot is. So, trying to use that as like a way to leverage the private, them as a private sector company to move forward on this in some way. So that's a little bit, but there's a lot of layers here. And then the additional layer, we just learned, as John discovered, that some of those individual towns within Hampshire Regional School District had gone out for this stuff, and we're realizing that they may have different contracts or different busing situations for their elementary schools versus like their middle and high schools, because those are all individual towns versus like the centrally located secondary institutions. So we still definitely have some things to learn from them about how they're structured and what all the different pieces are. But having these conversations with them, kind of getting us all together, is the key first step in potentially moving that further down the road.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. John, anything else to add for now, John? Okay.
Not really.
No, that's good progress though, right? Just like having both, getting ourselves, in front of both those groups and having a direct conversation with somebody on the Northampton School Committee. Like, those are the three big things that's really solid progress. And Connie.
I just wanted to second what you just said. I think that you've made tremendous progress, John. I'm very impressed and grateful that you've got this as far as you have. I'm feeling hopeful.
Not sure about progress, Connie, but I've beaten a lot of bushes.
Well, I think there has been progress, though. I mean, just the fact that you've made some contacts and you're starting to talk to people who actually could collaborate. I think that's huge progress. I really do.
One thing, just a quick anecdotal mention, is that after hearing indirectly through you and your conversation with the mayor that the city council was taking an interest, 2 members of the city council were taking an interest and beginning to do some work in that area. I wrote them, and 2 weeks ago, I have not, 10 days ago at least, I haven't heard anything back from Omar or Connie Durham. I will call Connie shortly and just try to find out directly.
Yeah.
Great.
And you're certainly, you've building up your Rolodex of contacts within the industry.
Yeah, if I could only find it. There's no Rolodex anymore.
Yeah, I know. I realized as I said that word, I was like, oh, right, wow, I'm really dating myself more so. Okay, great. Well, we'll look forward to the reports back from how those things go from me and you and anybody who ends up being at those meetings. And I guess we're still waiting for official word for about the 22nd. We'll have to get back to Cindy and say that we can be there. And can you stick us on the agenda for a couple minutes?
Okay.
Okay, on to some more electric vehicle infrastructure. I know we all, after the last meeting, everybody rushed out to try to find as much information as they could about these demand charges. And I spent way too much time like reading through DPU orders and like Eversource billing rates, trying to understand. And then River Valley helped us a little bit. And then we got this new wrinkle when Steve Linsky chimed in and said, oh, Deerfield didn't get any demand charges last month for their EV chargers or whatever. And like, the mayor, Cassie, were you not on those? You may not have been on that email chain. I'll try to forward it to you. So Steve, who came to a meeting a couple months ago, just responded back and said he heard from Deerfield that last month they did not have to pay demand charges or extra demand charges on their EV chargers. And the mayor responded back and basically said, oh, that's the legislation I've been waiting for or whatever, but like still unclear exactly what led to this. And I think somebody, I don't know if she asked or somebody else asked, like what company they're using to manage their chargers, whether it's like ChargePoint or somebody else. And I don't think I've seen a response to that question. I think maybe Steve said he was trying to figure that out or trying to get that information. But that's a lead for at least like trying to figure out how Easthampton may get away from these demand charges on the existing chargers at Love Field and 50 Payson. And then, maybe we can actually get the ones at the school turned on, which would be nice, since they're just sitting there taunting everybody. And then, then there's the discussion of like, okay, well, what's next? And like, what can we reasonably consider as sort of a short, some short-term goals here in terms of advancing, EV infrastructure within the city. And we've had some discussion around that with like, Bruce's interest in like the level 3 and like what ways that we might be able to make that happen. Or even, and I guess I'm trying to remember what the mayor said last time that it's possible they could get like a level 3, or there is a level 3 charger right at the public safety complex. And that, if we figured the best money grant opportunities are going to be available to do on like, municipally owned land or property, is be the best bet for that. So I know we did a little talking and brainstorming about where something like that might be or might go. That's the state of things that I remember. So Cassie, on the demand charges, since you've kind of, I don't know if you're officially charged with like figuring that out from the city's point of view, or?
Well, yeah, when we first installed them, I went through like down a wicked long rabbit hole trying to figure out like what's the deal with these demand charges, how do we make these things pay for themselves, like was kind of hoped for before. We're not alone in this problem. It's a problem with Agawam. I've gone to a lot of different like conferences and talked to Eversource and like seemed sure for a very long time that it wasn't something that we were doing wrong. Is how it is, and that is our biggest barrier is this demand charge. I tried to share that bill, but you saw that bill was from like 2021 or something, but that hopefully gave an idea of like how it's itemizing out each dart of what we're charged or feed or whatever. And so, but this information about Deerfield seems critical that if that's the case, there was always this talk of like, oh, it's going to come down. It would be something that would have to come down from on high to make Eversource get rid of the demand charge or do something like that. Because I had gone to that conference, Recharge America symposium, and had talked to Eversource at that conference about this explicit problem. And they were explaining how they were rolling out a demand charge like rebate program, but you had to be past a certain threshold of the number of EV chargers that we didn't meet. So they were like, oh yeah, sorry, you're not eligible for this. So you're still, doesn't change anything for you, which is too bad. But if Deerfield, I would think is potentially similar to us in their situation. So unless they have EV chargers I didn't know about, but.
Yeah, and my research into that was really inconclusive because I think there is a threshold, right? There are these two levels of like Eversource billing rates, and like there's one for above a certain number of like megawatt hours or whatever it was. And I think that I did some quick math in my head, and it seemed to roughly equivocate or be the equivalent of 10 or 11 chargers like running at a sort of a reasonable amount of time. And so that was my guess as to where that came from, is like you need that many chargers just to get up over this part where then you would be at this other billing rate, and maybe that's where the demand charge rebates would kick in.
That's my understanding.
Sorry, I got somebody.
Your baby there?
No, it's just a neighbor knocking on my door.
Oh, I thought I
It's
heard
also possible that they may not be on Eversource.
They are.
Oh, they are.
I looked on the map. They're an Eversource customer, Deerfield. Yeah.
Give me one.
Oh, Deerfield. Sorry, I thought you meant us. I was like,
I thought you meant Deerfield.
Oh, I know we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I will definitely try to reach out to them.
So,
more information about it.
While we lost Jamie, please physically, let me ask you, Cassie. I spent quite a bit of time digging through stuff on demand charges, definitions, how it works, and I went to the documentation minutes or whatever report of the DPU hearings with our state utilities. I think they took place in December of 2022. it's like a 300-page document, but you drill down, there's eventually a section about demand charges and EV chargers and pressure and expectation of the utilities to reform what they're doing. And they had to come back. They came back with some proposals. In fact, I think you could read up on Eversource's proposal and National Grid's proposal in this reef of documents. So they were talking about reforming those demand charges. You heard about that. How long ago did you hear about that in that conference or you were at? Is that 6 months or a year ago, or was it?
Yeah, remember, it wasn't a year ago. I want to say it was in April, I think.
This year, this April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, definitely this year. So
what they were talking to you about probably reflected the direction of policy and pressure from Department of Public Utilities and what they proposed under their rate approvals. But what I still don't quite get now, I finally understood that demand charges is not just a much higher rate per kilowatt hour of use, that it's a fixed number, like $10 or $50 or $100. And it applies to your peak demand at any given 15-minute interval in a month, right? But how does it compute? Is it every time you hit, how many times do you hit your maximum? There's only one maximum in a month, right? So does that mean it's one times whatever that fixed demand charge is of 100 or 50? Zach knows. Can you explain that?
Yeah, they get you. They get your highest demand in the summertime. Highest peak demand. It's only one day, sometimes two, that they judge you on. And so I do this for a lot of my customers and who I meet with, is try to figure out and how to get ahead of the demand charges.
Is it annual or monthly? I thought I read that it was any given month.
And so you get charged a monthly, but you get assessed your demand in the summertime, usually in July or August, and shortly after the hottest day that we've had. So yeah, a lot of folks have had their demand number reassigned this summer in July.
What's really weird, what I still am just confused about is I can see how you could, as a building, choose to do things so that your peak demand never goes above a certain amount. But this is it's chargers for electric vehicles, and there's like no way you can change how much electricity is being used when you're charging these vehicles. It's like it's just it is
Well,
what it is.
And
you could because the charge point could say don't ever put your output above this. Even when there's 4 cars plugged in here, don't let them exceed this rating, this kilowatt rating, which means it would charge them slower.
How long
it would charge them slower, but that's the push pull.
We don't need to make, or at least city council's feelings about generally that, because we did a funding request when we figured out that how these were costing, and we were like, hey, you need to appropriate this chunk of money so that we can pay for this. And the way that it was sold and explained is like, this is a service that the city is providing. We're not trying to make money off of it. We don't want to lose money on it either, but until we can figure out how to stop losing money on it, it's worth it. Just keep paying for it. Because we could throttle them to never meet the demand charge, but then people would probably think they're broken, and it wouldn't be giving that service anymore and promoting electric vehicles the way that they were originally intended to.
If you did that, if you were able to limit the power output just 2 days out of the summer, if it were that easy to access from your end and just turn it down on those days, you can have organizations, supply companies or whoever you currently work with, I think it's Constellation, send you updates. Hey, this is the peak demand day, or it's 90% chance this is the peak demand day. And there's usually only 3 or 4 of those in the summertime.
Zach, they're assessing, so this is like, from what I understand, with the EV, this is all stuff that's on a single meter, right? This is a separate meter that the city has for these chargers.
Yes.
And I thought the demand charge was based on the peak for that meter itself. Like
Yes.
wherever. So that may not happen on a hot day in July. It just may happen on some random day that like 10 different people came and charged their car or something like that. Right. So it may not correspond to the same as like when it's like a heating cooling issue.
It is. No, it's the hottest day, the highest demand day for ISO.
Okay. So that's what I was trying to understand. So it's not about, so it's about whatever your peak was on that day that the ISO had their peak, because that's what they're concerned about, because they're concerned about, can we serve our peak load?
That has not been clear, and all the stuff I've seen written up about this, that it was connected to the utility, to the grid's high peak day. But can you still do the math? I mean, I got to have this times this plus this times this equals, to get a sense of the charge. I've seen in bills, I didn't look at the municipal one, but I've seen online as an example of demand charge, $20,
Yeah.
$20 or $50. So times what? If it's just $50, it's silly. It's nothing. It's got to be times something else. So what is it times?
No, it's normally a demand amount. 39.57, 102.3, and then that's multiplied times the demand in the month. And so there is a monthly amount that's calculated.
So it's a new rate. Instead of paying 35 cents a kilowatt hour,
it's in addition to that.
Right.
So it's not even part of the 35 cents. Everyone with the G2 account, G3, they always have a demand amount. Even large G1s have a large demand at some point.
Follow-up question.
And so, yeah, it gets multiplied times that factor. And the factor is what gets assessed once a year.
All right. So
that's a really interesting point about trying to be aware of when they're going to make the assessment to try to make it an assessment that's most favorable for us. I think that's a really cool idea. However, I just don't know that we'd be nimble enough to get them throttled for that day.
Right.
Because when I talked to ChargePoint about it, they were like, yeah, technically we could throttle them, but they really seemed like they just didn't want to do that. And they were like, it'd be hard. I don't really know if it actually would be hard. I just don't know if it would be possible for us to try to like be that nimble. I think it's a great idea, but it seems like the lasting solution that we need is to get a new rate plan that's set up for EV chargers specifically, which I know exists in Connecticut. I think I saw that. They have like Eversource in Connecticut has a special rate plan just for EV chargers, public EV chargers. Like that's what we need. That's the real solution.
And that seems like where the state and like has been pushing the utilities to do that. And of course the utilities, with their standard foot dragging and like, not making it easy, but like, again, this Deerfield piece of evidence is like kind of a key thing. If we can figure out like how they made that work, or if there is this like legislation that, is taking effect, and like, is it going to just automatically take effect? Do we have to do something to take advantage of it? Like what's the mechanism here?
My impression from reading those utility hearing documents is that it's getting rolled out by the individual utilities as part of whatever this approval they had to get in December for rates. And it's not really legislation, it's regulation.
Okay.
That's,
That's exactly what my question is. I was wondering whether the utilities were trying to stop a bill that was going to force them to stop charging by coming up with this rebate situation. And is there still a bill somewhere that may get passed that will override whatever the utilities are offering? That's what Steve was saying, and that's what seems like what Nicole has been saying, that there's a bill out there,
right?
But I can't see any evidence of it. I looked for it, I did not see it. But
I meant to see that bill. I've seen it. I think that what I saw at that meeting at the Recharge Symposium was them presenting what they've done in response to that bill, and it doesn't hit us because we're in that weird place where we don't have enough. We haven't reached that threshold to get the rebate on the demand charge stuff.
Okay.
So the rebates were part of the bill. The rebates weren't a response to try to stop the bill. That's what I was.
No, I don't think they were trying to stop the bill. To Eversource's credit, I don't think there was any effort to stop the bill. As far as I know, I don't really know, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
But they had taken a lot of steps to try to react to the bill that was passed. It seems like we're just in that sweet spot where it's not hitting us in terms of benefiting us and making it easier for us to have EV chargers.
Steve Linsky, by the way, Steve Linsky was listed. I went through the long list of interveners in the rate hearings. Steve Linsky was listed as an intervener.
I saw his name in there too.
Yeah.
Like City
Zach,
of North.
I want to get your phone number if I can later, Zach, because I got to grill you on this. I still don't get the math. Okay.
John, take a look at that bill that I sent, because that
is it obvious from there? Okay, I've looked at some sample bills. Okay, I'll look at the bill. I'll look at the bill you sent, and then I'll call Zach up if he's willing to talk to me about it.
It's not obvious.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and Steve's email, Cassie, which I have forwarded to you, did say that he's trying to find that out, but a call to the Deerfield offices maybe would help unstuck some of that information. So I don't know. Are you comfortable taking that on, like trying to track the person down in Deerfield who could answer that question for you?
Yeah, I will definitely try to figure that. I got a note here.
Okay.
Because that's kind of what I've kind of been looking for since we ever installed them. Is like, okay,
right.
It's going to come down from on high. I don't want to miss it. I want to be right there and take advantage of it when we can. So the first hint was the stuff after the bill, which turns out wasn't for us. But now maybe there's something with Deerfield. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have only charge point in town?
What's that?
Are there only charge point chargers in town?
Correct. At least for the cities.
The ones on city property.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And I heard earlier John mention that Easthampton is not an environmental justice community, but about half of it is.
Yes, we do have environmental justice communities. We have 4 neighborhoods that are identified based on income.
But since Easthampton doesn't own their own school buses, that part is almost moot. Yeah.
Well, yes, although not to belabor this, but like the last time, at last meeting, the mayor all of a sudden, indicated, potential appetite on the city's part to actually maybe own school buses at some point. Like, not that wouldn't be a deal breaker necessarily, but obviously that's not,
Well, what she said she thought the city would consider would be the schools would buy the buses, but then they would still have a vendor,
right?
Provide all the employees
services,
essentially rent them from the city. So the city would get the rebates or whatever, but she didn't seem any more enthusiastic about actually running the school system, bus system, and all the.
Right.
So I don't know how realistic that is. John doesn't seem to think that's very realistic.
Well, actually, the consultant that I spoke to, I raised that with him, and I learned something. I thought that the public entity wouldn't want to mess around with handing an expensive piece of equipment over to a profit motivated bus operator because of are they going to care about proper maintenance and everything else? And he said, well, no, they could do that. They could work something out. The city could own it, turn it over to them. But the thing is, we're not going to get a grant. I mean, I can't say not, but it looks like very, very low chances of us tapping into this $5 billion that's at the federal level. That funds 0.5% of all the buses and school buses in the country. And so we're up against a lot of competition. But I just got a message here. I was checking for your email, Cassie, the one that had the bills, the electric bills in it, but I just noticed Maren Goldstein from the school committee, former member of the Energy Advisory Committee, just wrote me and said, thanks for reaching out to the school committee. We'd like to invite you to a Zoom-held finance subcommittee meeting, either the 24th or the following week. That makes more sense to start with them, and then go to the school committee.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can make that. And if you want to go too, Jamie, whatever.
Yeah, I could not make the 24th.
Yeah.
But the following week possibly. But it sounds like that you could do the 24th wouldn't work for you either, but you could do the following week.
Is 24th Thursday or Friday?
Thursday.
I might be able to be back for that.
Okay.
Or do it sometime.
Don't cut your trip short.
Or he said, or the other week. Okay. But this sounds like it's an alternative proposal to going to the full.
I think that's a good start. So let's go with that. Forget about the 22nd. Let's see. We got an actual invitation from him. Okay. Maybe Cindy prompted him or something. So, and we can do Hampshire on the 28th, and then that one on what maybe it's later that week. I don't know, whatever day it'll be, but
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to say at some point in late August, you're going to meet with the school committee. What's their title? The
Finance
Finance subcommittee.
finance subcommittee.
all right, I gotta be mindful of time. Unfortunately, I have double booked with meetings here today, so I have to another one at 5:30. So Zach, was there any other, we
No, I just wanted to meet everybody. Thanks for letting me.
What's your
listen
business?
in and hear what's going on in the city. And
yeah,
John, Jamie has my contact information if you want to get it from him.
Just for everybody here, what kind of business do you do that's related to this subfield?
I work with Power Options, and Power Options, we.
Is that a company name? That's the name of the company. Proper noun? Proper name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one word here. Power
Okay.
Options.
All right.
There you go.
And we consult with cities and towns and nonprofits for electricity, natural gas, EV chargers, you name it, all of it.
Okay.
And
you live in town?
I live in the city. Yeah.
Join the
great.
EAC.
We would love to have you.
I didn't even know about it until I was talking with Mike Owens about something else, and then I saw this on the website. Oh, I'll join a meeting. So
I really wish you would join. We really need members and people with your level of experience and knowledge. It would be so wonderful for us.
And if Alex Barron and
let him date us for a while. Constance, we can do some dating before we get married.
And I think actually the process, there's a committee, a school committee that vets the applications, and then they get sent to the mayor. It's ridiculously complex, but if you apply, you'll be accepted.
On the city website, it's just a form on the city website to join.
The fact that you didn't know about this feels like a failure on my part, Zach. I know. Every time I see you, we're in like soccer mode instead.
It's true. It's true. We're going 180 degrees in another direction, full speed. So I understand.
All right. But yeah, so I'm happy to keep you apprised, and we meet again once a month. I think we're doing the first Monday of every month at 3 p.m. So next one will be Labor Day, so we may have to push that. But anyway, we definitely somebody who's doing work in this area that especially working with municipalities and understands the mechanisms and the economics of this stuff. We want to just kind of be out at the forefront of this as a community as much as we can. A lot of these things are out of our control. We're beholden to federal grants and state regulations and all these things that are sort of top down. And there's not as much that, what we try to focus on here, of course, is what we can control: climate action plans and green community grants, aggregation, these sorts of things. But, where there's opportunities like that in the EV space, we want to be able to take advantage of them.
There's two ways. I mean, we do a building decarbonization roadmap, and we do a fleet roadmap, and really just helping folks either decarbonize their buildings and or their police force or however many vehicles they have in town.
Yeah,
and that's little money compared to actually implementing it. But to have an expert go through and analyze it for you is not much. It's like $500 a building right now because it's being subsidized by Mass EEC. So there's some good opportunities out there. You just have to find them.
Yeah, Cassie, that might be, I don't know if that's relevant to the climate action plan, but as a doing a decarbonization assessment, right, for city-owned buildings or for just in general, that seems like a good.
I don't know how much that was wrapped into the Honeywell that's already underway for a lot of municipal buildings. So it's a good question. And then we were working with Move EV for fleet electrification, but it's kind of installed, and I need to pick the thread back up on that. But yeah, I mean, definitely those action items are going in the climate action plan, and however we achieve them, that's going to be huge for the municipal side of things. Those things need to be part of the plan for sure. Of decarbonizing our buildings and our fleet. I mean, so definitely.
Yeah, the cities love working with us because we've already done the RFP and the pre-negotiated contract, so they don't have to do anything. They just, we go with you, and it avoids 30B, and there's legislation that allows organization towns to come with us without doing a lot of background work. So. Great. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate the time and learning a little bit.
Appreciate your time coming in and doing that. And I'm happy to have a conversation offline too. Can follow up and put John in touch with you for questions he may have about stuff too.
Feel free to share my info with them.
Will do.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
All right. Extra speed run through the last couple of things here. For stretch code updates, do we have anything?
Only that I've sent a couple of emails out with articles or information about the opt-in code, and I'm going to contact some of the individual school committee members, city council members, and see if I can get some people on board before I go to the whole city council. That's been, in my experience, that's worked well at the city council. That's how I got them to pass the, the climate change referendum. I contacted a couple of likely people, and then Owen took it on and it got passed. It happened really fast. Actually, I was surprised how quickly it happened. So I'm going to do that. Try that again.
Okay.
Moving on.
All right. And the Green Community Grant proposal. Cassie, I know you wrote this up in your message to us. Seems like, you're working on the report or getting things wrapped up there. The process around new grant ideas and timeline, there's an October deadline. We don't necessarily have a specific idea that we're already working with here. We need to sort of ruminate on that or think a little bit about what that might be. So the option would be to move forward or move into the spring grant round and just sort of hold off on anything new until then.
Yeah. You actually suggested something at the last meeting, Jamie, about seeing if we could get a grant that would help us do outreach to contractors and other people, to help them find the rebates and the other and money sources. I don't know if that sort of thing would be available, but I thought it was a good idea that you came up with.
Yeah, thank you. I do think, those sorts of outreach things, I mean, it ties back into what Zach is talking about, even with sort of decarbonization and get into the Columbia gas settlement thing, which I know is kind of a dead issue somehow, but that idea around heat pumps and education, just getting people, it kind of goes in with your induction stove thing too. It's getting people comfortable with these newer ideas around electrification, decarbonization, how do we do all that? So something.
Look at the grant document again to see what the options are of types of projects that the city can, apply for. Because it's pretty.
I have to go. I just got it. I'm so sorry, and I will look at the recording and add whatever you guys talk about. I'm so sorry. I've got to go right now.
You got to go right now. Okay.
I do. I'm sorry.
Do we have your vote? Do we have your vote for whatever you call it?
To adjourn?
Oh, yes.
Okay. We can officially say we'll.
I vote for adjourn.
Yeah, but are you going to talk?
We'll push the conversation. We're going to push the conversation about the grant proposal and other stuff until next meeting.
Okay. I have to literally. My 7-year-old granddaughter.
Bye.
I've got to go.
Understood.
Thank you.
No adults except me. Bye.
Meeting adjourned.
Cut her off.
I don't know what just happened. All right, but we are.
Go to the bathroom. No, never mind. We're hybrid. We're hybrid, aren't we?
Adjourned. I'm gonna. The meeting moved to adjourn. Seconded. Voted unanimously.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.